Hi, everybody. Hey, I had the good fortune of meeting Chad and on his Peyton speed shop and his whole family. And Chad had this cowl. Not even sure what vehicle it's off of. The thought is an early Chevy or Dodge. We know it's not a Ford, but we're not exactly sure what it is. Now, if anybody can look at this and tell us by the shape what it came off of, it would be greatly appreciated. Not necessary for the project, but it's just kind of good information to have. So if anybody can help with that, that would be awesome. But this is really in very solid shape. There's a little bit of rust down here, so I'll cut it off somewhere in here and just patch that in, put a flange on the bottom like the other side. You can kind of see what the other side looks like here. It still has the flange on it. I've got some flange pliers here. I'm going to bend this flange back into position so it lays flat. And then basically, I'm going to work on getting this set up so everything is in the right position. And then I'll start marking up where the frame section, or the body sections, I should say, will go on the, to match them up to the cowl, get them spaced properly, get them to the right length and all that. So I'm really excited to start working on this. Like I said, it's very solid. I'm really pleased with it. Thank you, Chad. Great stuff. I'm using some of my angle plates and such to get it set up so everything's 90 degrees like it's supposed to be here along the firewall. At least in my design, it's supposed to be 90 degrees along the firewall, so that's how I'm setting this up. And I'm pretty sure that's how it was for whatever car it was a part of. These things come in really, really handy for setting up your vehicle, parts of your vehicle, assemblies, etc. If I come back over to this side, I didn't really have a clamp that will reach in. I have one that will reach in, but there's nothing good to tie it to without stacking up some 2x4s under there. But this is another heavy, heavy block that I can use just to hold that angle plate in place, and it won't move around as good. So anyways, kind of see what the, this would be roughly the windshield opening right along here. That is in really good shape. A couple of holes and things, the thing's 100 years old. So there's a few obviously imperfections in it, but I think it's gonna be great. So the next thing I'm going to do is begin to fit all these body sections. You can't get a good look at them right now, but you've seen them before, into the cowl. So all of those sections will start here. The first one goes down here. I'll run it right up in here to whatever dimension I determine. Then the next one's 5 inches up from there, 5 inches up, and so on and so forth. I've got 7 of them. Now the last 2 are actually above this height, so I'm gonna have to see how I want to work that transition. Not too worried about it, but it's just gonna have to be given some attention, figure out what to do. So first I'm gonna get everything marked up on the body, strike some good lines, maybe with my height gauge or something like that, so I can have some working lines to measure off of, and then get the show on the road, as they say. There's one other thing I was pretty happy about. I made this template on my CAD system. I just printed it out and then cut it out to the line. But the line that my design has in it, let's see here, matches up nearly perfectly with the profile of this part. I mean, it's so close, I'm not gonna have to make any modifications to it as far as that profile goes. And I'm going to insert a picture here of how the section fit when I just laid one down. When I brought it home, I laid the section down next to the body, and you'll see how amazingly that first section, the one that goes around on the bottom, lined up with the body. Really great, really great. This is the inside of the cowl. Take a good look at it. There's where the patch panel will go. And here is the inside of the firewall. We'll get all this surface rust cleaned off it, and the patch panel down here made. Get the all these holes you see here from other features and accessories that they had at the time. They might have been a stanchion for a mirror or a light or something here, but get those all filled in, rolled in little pieces, and hopefully she'll look good. Yep, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little tool here, and I'm just going to put it up like this on the surface. So if you hold tight, if you don't hold it down super hard, but you still don't want to fall forward. You're now officially a body man. I'm sure most of you are familiar with corking tools, or at least the word corking tool. And in metal forming, especially hammer forming, you use a lot of corking tools. At least that's what we always called them in the trade. They could be wood, they could be nylon, they could be made out of phenolic, all different types of material depending on what the application is. So I've got some of these aluminum corking tools, and you can see they've got a little bit different shapes on them that are used for little different applications. Here's one that's kind of domed in this direction, and you know, it's been beat on a lot, and every now and then you have to smooth them out. But here's one that's not a point, but it gets narrow, and I used it earlier when my wife was helping me on getting this dent out of this radius, and worked really good. But that's what a corking tool is. Now I'm going to use this one next to hammer flat the flange on the bottom of this cowl. You'll see me doing that in just a moment or two. But I'd like to ask you guys, why do these tools, why are they called corking tools? Do you know the history behind it? If you do, please leave a message in a comment and we'll see who gets it right. Here we go. Let's use this corking tool on this flange. You know, I've got a bunch of hammers. I usually default to using this for almost everything. I mean, I've had it forever, and it just feels like an extension of me, you know what I mean? Got all kinds of them. A lot of them are heavier, a lot of them are, you know, bulkier ends and thicker handle. I like to really feel what the metal's doing, and this hammer it's been like an extension of my right hand. So anyways, I just want to flatten this out a little bit. I want it to be basically right down here on this surface. I may have to put a clamp on it, but let me see what happens. It's almost perfectly flat. Now the reason I have this angled, and I've had this for a long time, is so I can get into a flange like this without having to have the corking tool like right up against the panel of that you're working with. So I just want to drop this a little bit in a couple of areas. More up here. because of the shape of this flange, um, you get a little bit of what you would like to do is shrink the material. And when they form these flanges in a die, like in a press, you know, they do the final flanging, putting holes in them and things like that after they get the general shape. When they flange these, they just wipe them. Okay, you have a flange tool, you have a die, okay, and you have your material in between the die and this upper holder or pad. Hold down, you can call it different names. So you've got the material sticking out, and then this flange tool comes down and it wipes the metal across this surface here of this flange tool. And that's how you get flanges on sheet metal parts in a production scenario. And so when that happens, the metal moves, but sometimes it'll gather a little bit where there's radiuses and corners. And so you might get a little extra material. And that's the situation I have here, but it's not too bad. Actually, it looks really good now. It's sitting flat on there. It was just a little bit of waviness, but it wasn't bad. I'm sure it's been like that all its life. So what I'm going to do when I make the patch panel for that side, I'll cut it, and then I'm going to put a flange, just a straight flange. I'm going to put it in one of my metal brakes and bend this flange on here. And then I'm going to lay this down so I can have a good view of this. And I'm going to take my shrinker and stretchers, and I'm going to shrink and stretch the new flange. It's going to start out straight. I'm going to do that until it takes the shape of this profile, okay? And it'll be a perfect match. I'll have it so I can kind of butt it up from the outside. That way it'll give me a symmetrically opposite for this side of the vehicle. You'll see when I go through it. And then I will, you know, I can look at the top here if I need to run it through the English wheel a little bit or do something to get the shape. We'll see how this transfers, and I'll compare it to this part to see how we look. And of course I'll have this part here also to match it up with. Then I'll tack it in place and finish welding it and clean the weld up and such. But yeah, I just wanted to see if you were aware of the different types of corking tools. You'll probably see me out here with some wood ones, and then I have some nylon ones that are really good. I used to use those in air hammers. Let's say you're going to put a flange along the top of a fender, and you're building this fender by hand. So you put it on a tool, almost like a fixture, with a big hold down on top to hold the metal so it doesn't pull and shift around. Then you take that air hammer and just back and forth, and you'd wipe that metal down, and you'd have to tuck it and stretch it, and just depending on the shape you were forming it to. So it's a really interesting thing. But corking tools come in all shapes and sizes, use them for all kinds of applications. Just depends on what you're trying to do to the metal when you're forming it. So I hope that enlightens somebody. Don't forget, tell me how they got their name, corking tool. I think I'm going to get rid of the rusted scale outside. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time.